Welcome to part 2 of brush country bucks. Let's start this video showing some of the classic rutting behavior between two fully mature bucks. This old 9-point is walking in with his ears back. He's got his hair fluffed up to make himself look as big and as bad as possible. He's licking his lips and doing everything he can to be as intimidating as possible. But then there's this 13-point. And he doesn't look like he's too keen to back off from anybody. So there they are, licking their lips, pawing the ground, and doing everything they can to get the other guy to back down. It's a reasonable assumption that these two bucks know each other and probably have known each other for years. They've likely been through this ritual many times before and most likely have had a fight or two through the years. And here they are again. The quest for dominance never stops. It's rough on these whitetail bucks in the winter. They have all of this dominance that they have to go through, and then they spend so much time and energy chasing does, and it's not unusual for them to lose 20-25% of their body weight. It's amazing they survive. But obviously these two have and have for many years. So let's just sit back for a moment and watch and see how this plays out. The 9-point seems to be backing off a little bit. And now the 13-point, he's starting to make the first move. Well, the 9-point doesn't want to have anything to do with all that. And at least for today, it appears that the 13-point is going to remain king of the mountain. That's the same 13-point that was in part 1 of this series, but I thought that this scene was too good not to show. So, as the 13-point goes back into the pen to resume his activities, the 9-point drifts off through the brush. He's going to be looking for any tree or any bush that he can to pick a fight with and sort of lick his wounds. Now, unfortunately for this 9-point, he shows up later in the season in front of one of our bow blinds, but this time it's going to play out a little differently. You see, this time there's going to be somebody in one of these bow blinds that's actually armed with something besides the camera. So let's flash forward now to late December and see how it plays out. Here he is again. Same place, same scene, different circumstance.
Well, here we go. Start of 2021. Where else would I do this but in Cerrito? Here we are. I shot this deer about 9 o'clock this morning. It's an old 9-point. I had him in a fight a couple days ago, and he came in this morning. I spooked him a couple times trying to draw my bow. It was real quiet this morning, cold and quiet. Came back in with a doe, and I shot him. Pretty good shot, not too terribly bad. He ran, I don't know, 60, 70 yards and found him down here. But what a great way to start 2021 here in Cerrito pasture with a old 9-point here. I want to thank Mr. Earl and Mr. Rusty for everything that you do. Allowed me and my father to come down here. Just a special place this time of the year when the old Mexico whitetails are rutting in Cerrito. Happy New Year.
Anytime there's a discussion on whitetail deer management, invariably the subject of predator control comes up. For us, the short answer is we do no predator control at all. You can see something has this buck's attention, which turns out to be a coyote. Seems that coyotes and bobcats and deer all in this country coexist quite effectively. The country where this ranch is located has a very large population of predators, including mountain lions, bobcats, and coyotes everywhere. The ecosystem is so large that it's virtually impossible to have any material impact on the predators. Not that I believe you would really want to anyhow. I believe that predators play a valuable role in the overall ecosystem, and rather than focus on predators, we prefer to focus on the habitat, to create a healthy environment for whitetail survival. Certainly, predators get the occasional fawn or an injured older deer, but for the most part, we see minimal impact on the whitetail herd from coyotes or bobcats. Now that said, the whitetail herd has increased significantly in this country since everyone started supplemental feeding and expanding water distribution. Along with this has come a significant increase in mountain lions. It is true that most of the ranches around will try to control lions from time to time as best you can, but frankly, that has had a very negligible impact. Mountain lions certainly can and do kill deer, but at least where we are, there's not a whole lot you can do about it. Every place seems to have its management challenges. Now take a look at this video clip. I got a pretty cool buck in the foreground. They got a javelina, a coyote, and a feral hog all in the same scene. While we may not focus very much attention on predators, and we don't shoot any of the javelinas for all practical purposes, we do shoot every feral hog that we see. They're invasive, prolific, and I absolutely have no use for them. Another question that gets bantered around from time to time is, can you grow big deer if you have cattle? Now, this clip offers some clues into that question. The key, as with most things, is proper management. At the beginning of this video, I talked about how hard the rut can be on these bucks. I saw this particular buck at the end of the season, and the only way he could be identified was by the kickers on his left cheek too. He had broken all the other points off. Can you imagine how much force it takes to break off hardened bone like that? I mean, look at the mass on these deer. That is big, solid, hard bone. Now, we're going to go under the fence, or we're going to go over it. You never can tell. Well, looks like it's going to be easier to go over it this time. This video would be incomplete without a couple of nice 8 points. And that's another management question that frequently comes up. Should you remove mature 8 points? Or worse yet, shoot young 8 points to keep them from breeding to eliminate the 8-point gene. Having watched countless bucks, we've concluded they will never shoot a deer just because he might have 8 points. They go up and they go down. Now take this deer right here, for example. He's always been either an 8-point or a 9-point. But a few years ago, he was as much as 25 inches bigger than he is here. So the guiding principle needs to be, you know your deer herd, know what the deer are, and know what they've been and what they might be. Then you can make the best decisions. Culling, management bucks, aging deer on the hoof, knowing when a deer's at his peak, accurately determining the genetic potential of any particular buck, which ones to take, which ones to leave. A lot of deer hunters have awfully strong opinions about all of this. After watching a few thousand bucks over the past few years, I've come to a few conclusions for myself. Unless I know a particular buck from a very young age, I believe exact aging is usually, at best, a guess. Sure, there are some principles you can go by, but it's very hard to be precise every time. Also, I believe the person hasn't been born that can accurately predict what a buck will do the following year. There might be some generalities, but there are plenty of exceptions. What I do know is that age is almost always your friend, and that the window of opportunity for a deer to truly reach trophy status can be larger than most think, anywhere from 7 to 10 or 12 on a well-fed herd. Now take this buck right there. Is there any doubt that he's fully mature? Look at the way he walks, he waddles. And look underneath his chin, you see that skin hanging down. A close look at his head and face and eyes. Everything about him says old. Certainly we do take a few of the older deer off the ranch, and I had a guest on this particular buck right here. Unfortunately, the left main beam saved the life of the deer, and bad luck for the hunter. That's one of the quirks we have. The deer had some breakage, so we simply didn't shoot him. So it'll be keen to see what he does next year. Will he go up? Will he go down? I have no idea. But he certainly is magnificent right there. Here's a scene that plays out in the brush country all the time. Is that a giant buck walking through the brush? Wait a minute, does he have a drop time? And then they just seem to melt away into the brush, and you wonder if you'll ever get to see him again. Fortunately, we did see him again, and I think he's as cool as a buck can get. He may not be the highest scoring buck on the ranch last year, but he more than makes up for it with character and sex appeal. He's wide, has 9 long typical points, he's got super long main beams and a couple of kickers, and he also has that super cool drop time. This ranch has bucks like this because as many bucks as possible are allowed to get fully mature, and everything possible is done to keep nutrition as high as possible with adequate water and quality habitat. You know, it's really as simple as that. Age and nutrition. And we put a high emphasis on nutrition. So what deer hunter wouldn't get excited seeing a buck like this? What deer hunter wouldn't be thrilled hunting an area just knowing that there could be bucks like this around? And how many deer hunters really know how rare bucks like this truly are? While this buck has some maturity, he's not too old. Even though we run cameras and there are a lot of hunters in this pasture, we really have no idea what buck this was last year, so he probably made a pretty big jump. Even though this buck didn't get shot this year, he was a thrill to see as several hunters got to see him through the season. We believe this buck has 3, 4, maybe even more years where he could possibly get bigger, maybe a lot bigger, and that's a chance well worth taking. And so here he is posing and making his magic. What a beautiful scene. I can't speak for anyone else, but I absolutely love seeing and admiring these beautiful whitetails. If you're anything like me, you spend all year waiting for this moment to arrive. I've shown a lot of very mature bucks in this video, but as I wrap up part 2 of this series, here's a younger buck we believe has all the potential one could hope for. It'll be a blast to get to watch him age and see how he develops. I hope you enjoyed Brush Country Bucks Part 2 and will join me soon for Part 3 of this series.
This is a very old Cerrito deer, I think. We came down to the ranch about 3 or 4 days ago, and actually the first afternoon when I was scouting, I saw him. I put up 6 remote cameras to try and find him, and I got him on about 4 of the cameras. So I hunted for a couple days. Yesterday, he came in about 5:30 to 5:45, and it was pretty late. I really don't like shooting a deer down here in Mexico that late in the afternoon, but it was gave me a pretty good angle, and fortunately I made a good shot, and he went about 75 yards. I watched him fall. So this is just a terrific buck. We hadn't scored him. You know, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, maybe 16 scoreable points. You know, if I had to guess his age, I'm going to say he's 7, but he could be more. I mean, we just really don't know. But just a terrific buck out of the Cerrito pasture.